Hi, my name is Zoë François of Zoë Bakes and welcome to my kitchen. Today I am going to be trimming cakes. I made these beautiful cakes and they actually came out very level, so I don't have to trim the dome off of them, but I do want to take this darker top off, and then I also want to trim them in half. This is an awfully thick cake to use and decorate, and I want to have 4 layers as opposed to just 2 thick ones. So let me show you how I trim and cut cakes. The first thing that I do is use a cake turner. It's just much easier than trying to do it on the counter and having the cake sort of sit there and it just doesn't flow as easily. So having a cake turner is great. This is a beautiful heavyweight cake turner. There are less expensive ones, plastic ones. You can even use a Lazy Susan. Anything that spins really nice and freely is going to work perfectly. The other thing that you want is a nice long serrated knife. This is called a super slicer, and this is my favorite knife for cutting cakes. The serrated edge helps to get into the cake without making too many crumbs. The other thing that you'll notice about this knife is that it has a serrated edge, but it's scalloped instead of pointed. And that too kicks up less crumbs. So the pointed ones are great for bread. This one is terrific for cutting into cakes. There are many different ways to cut a cake. This is my favorite way. So the next thing that I want to talk about are cake pans, because you can see that this cake has really nice straight sides to it. And the reason that they have straight sides is because I used a pan that has straight sides. So these cakes are nice and thick, and I bake them in an 8 by 3 inch cake pan, but I have straight-sided 2-inch cake pans as well. So this is 8 by 2, this one's 6 by 2. I love these straight-sided pans. I'll link to them below. They just make your life so much easier as opposed to those old-fashioned cake pans that sort of slant out like this, which stack beautifully in your cabinet, but then you have to deal with a cake that isn't straight. So start with a straight pan, and then also when you're baking, always bake with a liner on the bottom of your pan, because that ensures that your cake is going to come out and you're not going to have a broken cake. So bake with a parchment liner. You can either cut one yourself or you can buy them. I'll link to them below, already cut out. If you bake a lot of cakes, that's a time saver. So I'm just going to put the cake on the parchment onto my cake stand. I have a tiny little piece of damp paper towel, and that's just there so that my cake won't slide around. That's just gonna help anchor everything to the cake turner. You don't want it too wet. It shouldn't be dripping, so wet it, squeeze it out, and that's plenty. Put your cake right into the center of your turner, and it should be right in the center. It shouldn't be sort of wobbling like that. It should be nice and centered so that you have a nice even spacing around it. Great. I'm going to use my super slicer to first trim the top. This is great, especially like if you have a dome on the top of your cake. It just happens with some recipes that you're going to get a dome. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It's just some recipes do that. Or if you have a dark top, this is just sort of the crust or the caramelization that happens at the top of a cake. And I want to take that out so that when I do my layers of cake, I don't have that color in my cake. So I just want to take the tiniest little bit off of the top. So I'm going to start right at the top, just like maybe 1/8 of an inch, not even 1/8 of an inch into the cake. And then I'm just going to saw back and forth. You can see I'm using the knife to saw back and forth. I'm not pushing. If I push into the cake, that's when I bring up crumbs. So just by very gently sawing back and forth and turning the cake as I go with the cake stand. That way, see how I'm never moving my knife? The knife is just right in one spot. And as I go around, once I hit the spot where I started, the knife just automatically slips in. So just keep going around slowly. You don't need to do this quickly. And then once I get into the middle, your knife will go all the way through. You can fold it in half and take that up. And now I have this beautiful exposed cake. And I only took off the tiniest bit of my cake. This is delicious, so don't throw it away. This is what we call the chef's snack. So just plop it into a bowl. Whenever I do this, I always have a bowl with the scraps in it, and the boys will walk through the kitchen and grab it. They know they can take those, and they're just delicious. So you don't want to throw them away. Next thing that I want to do is I want to cut this cake in half. So I'm going to start halfway down my cake. Just take a look. And I'm just going to make a mark with the knife all the way around to sort of give me a guide of where I want to cut this. Once I have that guide and I'm happy with how I've divided it, then I can start cutting. So again, the exact same motion, just sawing back and forth, not pushing, just sawing back and forth and very slowly and steadily turning my cake stand until I get all the way to the middle. And that's it. I'm going to show you a trick to getting this layer off so that you don't end up breaking the cake. Let me tell you that if you're going to cut cakes, you need to have them be totally cool. That way they have more structure. You can even refrigerate them. That gives them even more structure. And if it's a really big cake, freezing them helps. So let me show you how to get it off of here. Okay, so there are two different ways that I like to get the cake off. You can use a cardboard round like this and just slip it under the cake and lift it off. The same exact thing can be done with, this is the false bottom from a tart pan. So if you have a tart pan, you can do the same thing. Anything that's thin and can slip in there and hold the whole cake is what you want. But look at that, it's beautiful, and now I have 2 layers of cake. So I'm going to go ahead and do this to my next layer here. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is I did keep the parchment under the cake so that I would have something to rest onto my paper towel. When you go to make your cake and build your cake, you'll peel that parchment off and switch it to a cardboard round, and now we're all set and ready. Don't leave the parchment paper on the cake. I've done it. It's a disaster, so don't do that. Okay, let me do the next one, and I'm gonna speed that up a little bit just so you can see. I had refrigerated these cakes, so I've wrapped them really well in plastic so that they won't dry out. And if you're going to freeze them, you want to wrap them even more so that they don't take on the personality of your freezer. That's it. I have trimmed and cut the 2 layers. Now I'm ready to assemble my cake. So if you found this video helpful, please subscribe, please share it with your friends, please like the video and leave comments. Tell me what other videos you'd like to see. Thank you for joining me, and please come back and bake with me some more.